All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. We're just waiting on one more in classroom. So I won't start the video just yet. And I just had to reinstall WAMP server on my computer. Thank you, Windows 10. Ah. Curse you, Windows 10. And it's trying to prompt me to install it now on this computer. No, I will not. Never, ever. Okay, so I just got to add my new WordPress database. All my content's going to be gone because I had to reinstall WordPress entirely. Remember how to reset it? Mm-hmm. So yeah, go into PHPMyAdmin and then go into the WordPress database. And then go into the WP, the one that has users. Not user meta, but users. And you should see your username in there. Okay, edit that row.
Yep, I see that.
Okay. And then the user pass, type in whatever you want for your extra password. And then from that drop down, you're going to choose MD5. And that should do it. After you save it. Do I need to go over the rules in the classroom?
I don't know.
Everybody has to be nice, be helpful. I'm going to get a poster with that laminated, so you can just stick it up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we'll hopefully, Karen will be here soon. Ah, it's like infinite screen.
Okay.
Good, awesome, awesome. No problem. All right, let me try lights out. Okay. So today we are going to talk about plugins and users. Using plugins and managing users. Those are our primary goals, to get through those, and then if we have some time left over, we can just talk about additional topics if we want. Do you remember how to get into the dashboard? It's the URL, so localhost/WordPress/WP-admin. And I usually, for something like this, I usually recommend having the WordPress site open in one tab and then the dashboard open in another, so you can switch back and forth between the two. You might need to open a second tab. And then I type in at the end of it, type in WP-admin. And then you have to log in. Remember your username and password? Okay. All right, so mine's back to the hello world, and it's back to all the defaults because I have a brand new empty database because I had to reinstall WAMP server. So in my dashboard, everything is back to the defaults. The settings are all the default. The posts and pages are using the default ones, comments and everything. I don't have any additional themes installed or anything like that. But what I do have, when you install WordPress, it comes automatically with a couple of plugins. It comes with one, and you can always look under plugins to see. It comes with one called Hello Dolly that does pretty much nothing except for put a line from Hello Dolly in your WordPress dashboard. That's all it does. It's just a silly sort of demo plugin. I usually just delete it. So if you click on plugins, it'll show you your installed plugins, and then you can just click for the Hello Dolly plugin, you can just click on delete to delete it. And it's going to ask you if you're sure you want to delete it. I would say yeah. So click on yes, delete these files, and that'll delete the files. It's often a good idea to just go ahead and any files, any plugins that you're not using, just delete them. I mean, unless you think that you might reuse them later on, which could happen. There have been some times where I've had to disable a plugin because there was a bug in the plugin that was causing issues. Like in the Coder Kids Club site, there's a plugin right now that's causing problems with stuff loading correctly. So I have to disable it on a regular basis to be able to see the rest of the dashboard. It's very annoying, but it is what it is. So so basically, like right now, we can't make a subscription in the WordPress site on our Coder Kids Club site because the WooCommerce subscriptions plugin is messed up because I had to disable it. So it's very annoying. Oh, here she comes. So that one I won't delete because I'm hoping that they're going to have an update for it soon to fix the problem. If they don't, I'm going to see if I can find an alternative. Hello. No problem. No problem. Do you remember your username and password? Okay, we're good. So the other thing is, the other plugin that gets installed automatically is Akismet. It's actually a really useful plugin. If you're doing this as a for-profit, so if I go to Akismet, it is a spam protection plugin. And they have a name your price version for a plan. And that is typically for a non-commercial user. So it would be for like the PTA would be a good example of that, or a personal blog or something like that would be able to name your price. And your price, I think, could be 0 if you really wanted it to be. They do limit how many checks it does, but really what this does is anytime somebody submits a comment on your website, it checks for known spammers, known spam IP addresses, and it checks like the content of the comment. So if it says something like Cialis, Viagra, Gucci, or something like that, then it'll probably put it as potential spam. Unless your site is about Cialis or Viagra or Gucci or something like that, then it probably will still put it in the spam, but you'll be able to check it and say, yes, this is spam, or no, it's not. It's pretty useful. We use it on a lot of sites. It does really help cut down on the spam significantly because we get a ton of spam comments from the sites that we're not using it on, and a lot fewer. We get very limited spam comments on the ones that we are using it on. So I actually have the enterprise edition of it, and we use it on a lot of client sites. So it's useful. But if we go back to our plugins, they do update it pretty frequently. So the version of WordPress that you have installed came with Akismet 3.1.7. And since they released that, Akismet has a new version, 3.1.8. So they give you the option of updating it. It's not activated right now, so updating it won't actually affect your site at all because you're not actually using it. They don't automatically activate it for you. So even though a plugin is installed on your computer or on your WordPress site, it's not necessarily in use until you actually activate it. So from the dashboard, and Karen, we're in the WordPress dashboard under the plugins screen. Okay, take your time. So what we're going to do right now, we could just click on activate here, but I want to show you another screen in WordPress. So if you go to dashboard and then updates, so you go to the dashboard menu and then choose updates, you'll actually see the Akismet listed there as well. I would actually like you to check this window frequently because this is where your updates are going to go. So it'll prompt you to update WordPress, any plugins that you have installed that have an update, and it'll also, if you have any themes that have updates, it'll prompt you to update those as well. It's generally a good idea to keep your plugins updated. You do have to be careful though, because sometimes updating a plugin can break your site. So if you're going to do updates on your site, you want to do a backup of your site. We don't go into that in this class, but there are plugins that you can use to create a backup of your site. There's something called WordPress. You can actually install the plugin, and then you pay for a service with the people that make Akismet and WordPress.com. It's automatic, but it's called WordPress. And there are other plugins out there that you can use to do backups. But you would do a full database and file backup before you do your updates. So that way, if there is a problem and one of your updates takes the whole site down, you have something that you can roll back to. If you haven't updated in a long time, so like for example, we've got one of my developers is doing an update from, I think it's like 3.2 or something like that, like a really old version of WordPress for a client site. He has to do incremental updates. So he has to do, you can't go more than like 2 versions at a time. You can't just update. Like if you are on 3.2, you can't just jump right to 4.4. You have to go from 3.2 to 3.3 or 3.4, and then to 3.5 or 3.6, and then all the way up to 4.4. So it can take a while to do that, because you have to do the update, and then you have to check, make sure nothing broke, and then you do the next update, and then you check and make sure nothing broke, and so on and so on and so on until it's been completely updated. So it can take a little while to do all of those updates. So the last version of WordPress was out, it was a few weeks ago. What my server guy doesn't like to update. So like when 4.4 came out, he did not update all of our clients right away. He usually likes to wait until 4.4.1 comes out, because they're going to find bugs. It's open source software, and it's created by volunteers. Some of them are getting paid, but a lot of people that are doing it in their spare time for free. There's going to be bugs, there's going to be issues, so he likes to wait until those have kind of shaken out and been discovered, and they've released a patch for the next update. So when 4.4 came out, he said, let's wait a couple weeks, and within a couple weeks, 4.4.1 came out. And that was when we started updating all of our clients. So then whenever a dot release comes out, we'll just run an automatic update. He'll do a quick backup and then automatically update the site. So, but for right now, you can see that there is, and you can click check again if you say, hey, I'm pretty sure there was an update of WordPress. 4.5 will actually be out before too long. They try to release it, it's about every 3 to 6 months. It really just depends on, I think the roadmap is to have it every 3 months, so that there's like a new version every quarter. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I think the last version came out, I want to say it came out in January. December or January, I can't remember now, but it came out not too long ago. Excuse me. But one of the nice things about this screen is that you can select all. So I can select all plugins that need to be updated. Right now there's just one, but let's pretend there are more than one. And then you can click on Update Plugins. And what happens is very similar to the installation of the theme. It'll actually go to the plugin repository, grab the latest zip file, copy it over to your site, unzip it, and update the files in your plugins directory. And the plugins directory lives basically where the themes directory lives. So you remember that was under the WordPress site in WP content, and there was themes. We also have plugins, and it'll just create a folder for every single plugin in there. So as we install plugins, we're going to see more folders. We'll see more folders in that file, in that directory. So after you've updated it, go ahead and click on Return to Plugins page. We'll go to the Plugins page again. And then we're going to go, you can see that you can, if you want to, you can activate it. So you can click on Activate. We're not really going to be able to do a whole lot with this because you actually have to activate your Akismet account to do it. But you could also click on Settings to see what the settings are. And you'll see that it's going to say you have to get your API key. I don't have the API key to put in here right now. I just wanted to show you this. This is a plugin settings page. And then if you go back to your plugins, installed plugins page, you can then deactivate the Akismet plugin. So what that means is that Akismet is installed, but it's not activated. It's not in use. So the files are sitting there on your server, but they're not actively being used. Now, one potential risk with having those files on the server Any of you know about the Tim Thumb exploit? You ever hear about that? Tim Thumb? Tim Thumb is a photo compression or photo resizing library that somebody wrote that was very widely used in a lot of gallery plugins and the like. And it was very widely used as part of other plugins. And there was a big exploit that let all kinds of bad stuff happen to the site. If somebody knew that you had Tim Thumb installed, they could just go straight to the Tim Thumb page, the Tim Thumb PHP page, and inject some malicious stuff into your site with it. So even if the plugin wasn't actively turned on, the fact that that file is sitting on your server meant that if they went straight to the Tim Thumb page, they could activate that file. So a lot of plugins have removed Tim Thumb from their libraries. But just again, be aware, this is why I recommend if you're not using a plugin and you don't think you're going to need to use it again, delete it. Just deactivate it and delete it. Don't leave it on there, just get rid of it. It's probably the best practice to do. Excuse me. Now we can install more plugins. So if you click on Add New under your plugins, there are many plugins out there that do all kinds of really cool stuff. So we use BuddyPress on some sites. BuddyPress is they call it social networking. It's a community in a box. It's a bunch of plugins that are used to do things like you can have forums, you can have private messaging between users. It's sort of like a WordPress version of Facebook. And we actually do have quite a few clients that use it. Some use it, and some of their members use it. A lot of times they just say, I'll just use Facebook because that's what they're on. Just because you don't have to remember another username and password. Another one that's pretty useful is Jetpack, and that gives you a lot of, WordPress.com has a lot of really cool functionality on it. Does some stuff automatically, like publicizing and sharing features, and that lets you add some of those features to your WordPress.org, to your self-hosted website. So it's pretty useful, and we do use it on a lot of our WordPress sites. BBPress does performs. There are a lot of other ones besides those, so these are all featured. And notice that they're like BuddyPress, automatic, BBPress, and the BuddyPress community. These are all like official WordPress plugins. So they're all, and I think this guy actually works for Automatic. So these are all people that work for Automatic. So they're going to push their plugins, of course. But if you click on Popular, that'll show you some other plugins that are very useful. Oh, look, there's Hello Dolly. It's not very. Yeah, we deleted it. Yeah, and it's not going to get highly reviewed because it doesn't really do a whole lot. But the guy that wrote it is one of the lead. He's the owner of Automatic. He is the Mac in Automatic. So you can see like it hasn't even been tested with this version of WordPress, but it doesn't really do anything. Nothing. If you activated it, it would add a. Actually, let me show you. That's a line from Hello Dolly. I'll show you. Watch. See that right there? That's all it does. So if I go to another page, that's all it does. That's all it does. You're looking swell, Dolly. No, no. It just adds that. Yeah. That's all it does. It's pretty worthless. So I usually just delete it. Because who knows, somebody will find an exploit for it and hack my site through Hello Dolly or something. I don't want that to happen. But you can see if you look under Popular, Popular is just it's going to be like how many installations there are for it. So you can see there are a lot of plugins that are very popular. All-in-one SEO pack is a good one. Google Analytics by Yoast. This is one that we use a lot, Yoast SEO. So you can see there are quite a few plugins. One that we use a lot on our sites is WordFence Security. So we are going to install that one. So if you go to Popular and then scroll down until you see WordFence Security. If you can't find it, you can actually up here, you can type in WordFence. WordFence. And it should come up. Yes, all one word. I think it'll come up if you type it in 2 words too, though. Not yet. Well, if you already clicked install, it's okay. Well, you can install it. It's fine to install, but I want to show you what you want to do before you install something. So when you're thinking, oh, I might install this, it looks like it might be a good plugin. First, look at how many times it's been installed. When is the last time it was updated? What are the star ratings on it? And then click on more details, so you can just see a little bit more details. I've had a lot of clients come to me and say, my WordPress site is broken, what happened? And I look at some of the plugins they've installed, and some of them like haven't been updated in 2 years, are not compatible with the latest version of WordPress, have known security issues. So we have to, first thing we have to do is just delete the folder that they're in. So you do want to kind of take a look before you do the installation. And you can see here, this one's very highly rated. It's got a 5-star rating overall, average 5-star rating, which is great. You know, of all of the ratings, most of them, 2,500 people give 5 stars, which is great. It's been installed over 1 million times, which is a lot. That's quite a bit. It has been updated. I usually say within the last couple of months. Like, it should have been updated since the last WordPress update. So if someone has at least tested it. What is it compatible up to? 4.4.2 is the current WordPress version. So you want to double check that. And then just take a look and see if if the plugin does what you want it to do, like read through the description. Make sure the installation is pretty straightforward. Sometimes I look at the reviews. Just take a look and make sure that it's all good. Okay, and then after you've looked at that, then you can click on Install Now. If you already clicked on Install Now over here, that's fine. So you click on Install Now, and just like it does with the theme, it's going to copy the zip file over to your WordPress site, and it's going to put it in that same directory that we saw before. And you can see now I have a WordPress directory, sorry, a WordFence directory. Now, again, installing the plugin does not activate it. It's not automatically activated. So you would actually have to click on Activate Plugin to turn it on. So you click on Activate Plugin, and it takes a few seconds. Sometimes when you activate a plugin, you're going to get these little tooltips. That's a feature that the plugin authors can add. Some of them will use it for, and you can see, to create a tour of the plugin. So it'll give you like a guided tour of the features of the plugin, which is really helpful if you just installed it and you really don't know anything about it. So if you want, you can click on Start Tour, and it'll take you to the WordPress settings page, to the scan page, and you can read through, continue to work. You can end it at any time. So what WordPress does is it does security scans of your WordPress installation, and it looks for malicious files, which is really useful. It's for security holes. It looks for any compromised files. So it's really useful because that's how a lot of people will hack your site, is with that. And you can actually watch the live traffic, so you can sit there and watch live traffic. So as people are looking at your site, so if I go and look at the site, if I go to WordPress, the WordPress page, and then I click on Hello World, and I click on this comment. If I refresh this, no, I have to turn it on. Come on, turn it back on. I may not have turned it on. Okay. Oh, you start the WordFence scan. Let's scan. Some of the stuff you have to pay for to get it. So a lot of the plugins that are, and this is kind of like what we talked about with the themes, a lot of the plugins that are in the WordPress repository are freemium. So they're free to install from there, but they do have a paid version that they would rather you use and pay for. So something to think about. It's not very expensive though. And really some of the plugins that you get, like they're worth their weight in gold. We had one client who was getting hacked constantly. And the part of the reason why was he was accessing his website from unsecured networks. He's a travel blogger. And so he would just go to a cafe in Europe somewhere and hook up to their unsecured network and log into his WordPress site, and somebody would get his username and password, and they'd log in as him and inject some code in there and just do who knows what. So he was getting hacked all the time. So what we ended up doing was we used this thing called Security, which is another security plugin. And one of the nice things with that plugin is if your site is hacked, they will fix it for you. So you pay an annual fee, and it wasn't a whole lot. At the time, it was like $80 or $90. And they will go through and remove all of the malicious code and everything from your site, which was a lot cheaper than having us go through and find all the files and manually removing them for him. Because we're going to charge him at least a couple of hours to do that, and we charge him our hourly rate. So Security was, the one whole year of Security is about half what our hourly rate is. So that was a big money saver for him, and he's really happy. So now he just comes back and asks us whenever he needs an update or needs some new features for his website, he comes back and asks us for that. But we're not constantly having to go through and fix the hack on his site. So again, this is WordFence. It's a nice it's a useful plugin. There's lots of features. We're not going to get into everything in there. Let's go back to plugins, add new. I want to add another one so you can see what they do, and we'll go back to popular. Oh, a new feature in a lot of plugins is the ability to auto update. So you can see that WordFence keeps asking if I want to stay up to date automatically. What that'll do is it will automatically upgrade. Whenever there's a new version of WordFence, it'll automatically update. I'm still, like, for some sites, I'm fine with that, but for some of my more active sites where a bad auto update or a bad update could totally destroy my site and cause lots of problems, I usually say no. So it really just depends on if you're comfortable with the plugin automatically updating itself whenever there's a new version. So for this, I would say no thanks. But I'm pretty good about checking my updates on a pretty regular basis and updating on a lot of the sites. So if we look, if you scroll down a little bit, another plugin that I use a lot is WooCommerce. WooCommerce is on the popular. And Woo Themes is the company that makes it. They were actually recently bought in the last, let's say 6 months, they were bought by Automatic. So they are now like the official e-commerce for WordPress. So let's go ahead and install that one. And you can see that was last updated 5 days ago. They are very good about updating very frequently. So we're going to install that. And then you can activate it. And now sometimes when you install a plugin, you're going to get additional settings that it requires you to do. So, or it doesn't require you, but it's going to very strongly encourage you. So you can see with WooCommerce, after I install it, I get this WooCommerce setup screen. It's very similar to the original WordPress setup screen that we went through, where you have to actually enter a bunch of settings. I do recommend if you do install WooCommerce to use this. So I would just go ahead and go through it. Let's go. And it's just going to tell you, it's going to create some pages for you automatically. And then it's going to ask you a little bit of information about your store. So you would specify what state your store is in. I'm going to say I'm in Maryland. It uses that for calculation of taxes. If you use sales tax, if you want to use US dollars, if you have shippable products, you need to specify the weight and the dimensions. And then it just gives you a little bit of information. Do you want to set up shipping? If you're going to do shipping, yeah. Are you going to be charging sales tax? You can click yes. And you will enter prices. And then you can import some starter tax rates. And since I'm in Maryland, it's going to try to import the Maryland sales tax for me automatically. So it grabs that from a centralized shipping table. Click continue. You can always update it if you need to. It assumes that you're going to use PayPal initially. So you would put in your PayPal email address. You can also accept check payments. You notice they spell check with a QUE. The company is based in South Africa. And they've also got cash, and you can do bank transfers. So I'm going to skip this step for right now. And then it does ask to do some tracking, allow Woo themes to collect non-sensitive. I am always like, no, I don't really want to do that because that's a potential security issue. So I usually say no thanks. And then you can create your first product. So some plugins add all kinds of stuff to the dashboard. So if you take a look at the dashboard at the menu on the left, you can see that it added WooCommerce and products over there. So it added quite a bit of stuff over there. Under WooCommerce, I've got, let me dismiss this real quick. I've got my orders, coupons, reports, settings, system status, add-ons, and then under products, I've got a bunch of stuff there. So it adds all kinds of stuff to WordPress when you install WooCommerce. In addition to the plugin, that's a free plugin. This is a free plugin. You can do a pretty simple store with just the free WooCommerce plugin. If I go under settings, you can see I can set up a store that has products, that does the automatic calculation of taxes and shipping and everything. If I go to my checkout, I can say which of my payment types is enabled. If I wanted to say CHECK instead of check, I can say, I can change that. Payment. I know it's there also, but, and then I can also, for PayPal, I can put in the PayPal email address that I want it to go to and everything. So this will actually give me a store where users can pay by check and PayPal. So that if that's all you need, you're good to go. You're fine. If you need more, one of the really nice things is there are a ton of add-ons that you can get from Woo themes. They're not free. So WooCommerce is another one that's kind of that freemium model. They've got a free plugin that you can use, but there are hundreds of extensions that you can get from Woo themes that you can pay for to extend your WordPress site. So, for example, on the Coder Kids Club site, we've got, I think, 10 or 15 different extensions. So, like the fact you can pay by credit card on our site because we use this thing called Stripe. So you can pay with PayPal. We're using the default PayPal setup, but you can also use Stripe to pay and check. We also have product add-ons because like some of our products are configurable. We've also got things like tickets. So you can actually buy tickets. I don't know if it's going to come up or not. Events. Let me look up events. So the events calendar that we have, I don't know if it'll come up here or not. Not seeing it. Oh. No, it's not on there. So we're using a plugin called the Event Calendar Event Tickets Plus that makes it so that you can create an event like we have on our calendar, and it'll link a WooCommerce product to the event. So you're actually, when you're purchasing a ticket for a class here, you're actually purchasing a WooCommerce product. It's just that it's selling it as a ticket. So there's other plugins, like we've got a booking plugin. So one of their big extensions is booking, and which allows you that's how on our WordPress site. So the Coder Kids Club, if you go to book a party, you can pick when you want to have the party. So I can say I want to have a party on the 3rd. And then I can say what time I want to have it. And then I can go through and say where, all this other stuff. So all this stuff is from a combination of WooCommerce bookings and also product add-ons. So all of the extra stuff down here, like location, event topic, all that stuff is add-ons. So what it does is for these, the numbers there are per person. So if I said I'm going to have 10 people, and I choose, and you can see the price right now is $300. So if I added paper crafts, which is $1 a person, you can see it makes it $310. If I add 3D printing, it's $5 a person, so now it's $360. If I add goodie bags, t-shirts. If somebody wants to have a really, really crazy, awesome party where we do everything, we can do the prizes. They want to do perler beads and painting. They could have a 2-hour party that costs $670. I don't think anybody will ever do that, but you never know. They might just want everything to happen. I don't think you could actually do the paper craft, the 3D printing, the perler beads, and painting in 2 hours. It would be really hard. But let's say, somebody did that. So, but you can see what I'm doing is I'm using this product add-ons, which is this, again, this WooCommerce product add-ons plugin to allow people to have those options and select those options from there. The other thing is if I increase the time, so it's 4 times 30 minutes. We did it so that it's the lowest you can do is 2 hours, but you can increase it by 30-minute increments. So I can say I want it to be 2.5 hours because let's say I'm having cake and food and everything, and that updates the price for it automatically. So $745. That is an expensive party. Let's remove some of these options here. So it goes a little bit more reasonable. And this is honestly what most people do, is they just want to have the party, and you've seen a couple of them. That's a little bit more reasonable. We did for a while, but it got to be unmanageable, so we stopped. But we make recommendations for food. we kind of like Lido Pizza. They will deliver, and their pizzas swear. So if for a Minecraft party, having Lido Pizza, yeah. The kids think, oh, it's square pizza. But if you're interested, I can show you some pictures from my daughter had her birthday party here, and we had yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We have little signs and everything that we put with the food. Like we have pretzel sticks, and those are like sticks, like Minecraft sticks, and we had slime balls were grapes. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway, so this is the booking one, and then when the user, and you can see here it says pay a deposit of $100 per item. So when I click check availability, it'll let me proceed to checkout, and it'll let me fill in all my information and request confirmation. So once that's requested, because it requires a deposit, what'll happen is I'll check the date, and this is something I have to teach you to do because you're going to do this. I'll check the date and make sure it's available, make sure, because sometimes they'll request it when we actually have a class going on, so you have to work around that. I'll check the date, and then I will confirm it, and when I confirm it, I will send them an invoice for the deposit, which they can then pay. We usually say pay it immediately to hold the space, or we'll release it to the public again. I've never had to do that, so let's see. And then the rest of it's payable usually, and it used to be it was payable a week before, now we're making it so that it's payable the day of the party. So if they do add-ons during the party, we can add them on during the party, and then they would pay the total at the end. But this, the deposit is, there is a plugin for deposits. So you see, I've already got bookings. And by the way, you can see, so like bookings is $250. Product add-ons is another $50. And then deposits, it's an annual subscription, yeah. WooCommerce deposits is $179. And there are, so we also use the Stripe plugin. That one's free. And we also use composite products, which is $79, product bundles, which is $50. So there are, you can spend a lot of money on these plugins. What we actually use, what I usually do is I get like the, so that's a single site subscription. I'll pay a little bit more for the up to 5 sites, and then I can spread the cost out among several sites and several clients. So, and we do quite a few WooCommerce sites for clients, and it's really easy to use. So we do quite a few. The Coder Kids Club site, my brother runs the summer camp. His site is done with WooCommerce also. Kind of funny, brother and sister, we each do separate summer camps. His is sports, mine is computers. So very different audiences. I told him we should partner up, and I'll take all the nerds and he can take all the jobs. So it's like, yeah. So anyway, so you can see that there are a lot of plugins that you can use. I mean, I probably spend several $1,000s a year on plugins on WordPress sites. But the reason that I'm willing to pay that is because it really does, rather than me having to write all that custom code myself, and then have to maintain it and update it and make sure it's not hackable and everything. It's worth it because we're making money off of these sites. So it definitely saves us a lot of time and frustration. So if we go back to the WordPress site. So if you ever install a plugin and you decide after a while, I don't really want to use it, whether or not you can just turn it off is going to depend on the plugin. So if you decide, I don't really like WooCommerce, but you still want to have e-commerce on your site, you can't just simply turn it off. You have to find an alternative for it. So if you still want to have the WooCommerce or the e-commerce on your site, you'll have to find another plugin to replace it, and you might have to set up that other plugin on your site before you turn off WooCommerce. But that can be really tricky because sometimes they'll use the same names within it. So if you're using the same names for your post types within WordPress, it can cause some issues with it. So you can't always have the same plugins turned on at the same time. But for example, if you decide that you want to do e-commerce, but you think, I don't really want to use WooCommerce, there are other e-commerce plugins out there. There's one called JigoShop, which is what WooCommerce used to be. Basically, the folks at WooThemes, a lot of these plugins are GPL licenses, so new public license, which means that you can make a copy of it, and you can just say, this is my plugin now. I've forked it. So WooCommerce started off as a fork of JigoShop. I guess the people at WooThemes wanted to add some new features that they weren't going to be adding. And so they just wanted to kind of take the development in a different direction. So they forked it and they made their own WooCommerce out of JigoShop. So some people say, oh, they stole it. But I mean, that's the nature of GPL, is that it's out there. It's free. And you're allowed to copy it, and you're allowed to make whatever changes you want to it, and you're allowed to release it as your own. And you can charge for the copy of the plugin that you created. So that's totally fine. That's part of the license. There are other, so there's also, so if you did a search for e-commerce in the WordPress dashboard, there are tons of other. There's the CartPress. Some of them aren't very highly rated. There's a Shopify plugin. Shopify is actually a separate service, but it lets you connect to WordPress. There's a bunch of other ones, WP EasyCart. Some of them are really simple, some of them not so simple. So you've got a lot of options, but really I think the big kahuna there is WooCommerce. WooCommerce is kind of the most widely used and widely supported of the plugins for it. You can see that JigoShop, which is what WooCommerce was based on, was, let's see how many, that's not installed on quite as many. JigoShop, like 10,000, I think. Yeah, so 10,000 plus active installs, and then if you go to WooCommerce, that's probably 1 million plus. Yeah, 1+ million active installs. So, so you've got all that. So some other possible plugins that you might want to use. You might want to install an SEO plugin, a search engine optimization plugin. You might want to. I like Yoast, but some other people like the all-in-one SEO. It's really up to you which one you use. This one's slightly higher rated, but I'm just used to the Yoast one. That's why I use it. It's just our personal preference. You might want to do a caching plugin. Just be careful with caching plugins because they can sometimes cause more problems than they fix. So you got to be careful with that. You might want to, this is one, TinyMCE Advanced. We talked about how TinyMCE has additional buttons that aren't turned on in WordPress. This will turn them on. So this will actually enable more features for MCE than you are able to do. So you can see that you can add buttons. You can remove that underline button from your MCE. So there are a lot of additional features there. So lots of other plugins that you can add. Now, in addition to the plugins that are on the WordPress repository, so these are all the free plugins that you can download and install for free from the WordPress repository. There are additional plugins. So what I actually have, I'm going to upload a plugin. I'm going to demo this, and then I'm going to give you guys each my flash drive to put in and grab the file because I did not get it for you already. So I'm actually going to click on Upload Plugin. And this would be if you purchase a plugin from the WooThemes. they're going to give you a zip file. So this is like we talked about with the themes. When you purchase a theme from a commercial theme repository, they'll give you a zip file, and the zip file is what you upload to install the theme. Same thing for plugins. So I'm going to click on Choose File, and I'm going to go to my flash drive, and there is a Gravity Forms zip. It's not the one with the underscore because I copied this All right, we had some technical difficulties. Sorry about the stop in the broadcast. I'm going to bring it back up with the screen share, but we decided to take our 10-minute break. So I'm gonna leave this down for right now, but I will bring the screen share back up when we get started up again. So it'll be about 10 minutes.
So do you do web development for a living? Well, do you do web development for a living? No, not for a living. I'm an IT person, meaning I manage IT people. But I did a website for my son's school's PTA. And I did it 6 years ago. I really did my life. And I left the host company to do all the installation. And that was fine back then. Now I want to understand. So they installed a lot of folders, and I didn't really know what the folders were for. So I wrote to know a lot of what she's talking about at the same time of learning. They're like, this is all we created the website ourselves. I just did it, and just how I feel about it. Not so well. I do a lot of obviously. Do a lot of this is you kind of need to recording you. Yeah, I mean, I would have to do a website myself. Yeah, but I really didn't want to spend money on the host. Most of these things. So, this is a chance for me to go and practice and try different things. But I wouldn't be fine on the inside. But I don't put photos on the site because I want to put pictures of kids. So I have to graphics and I have to do something with photography. I love the photography. I have an ambulance that's on the water. So I'd love to put it on WordPress. It's great and being fantastic and all there is. Because there's like hundreds and hundreds of photos on the family site. Yeah, but don't you have those photos someplace else? When you can upload them? Yeah, I have this since, 2008. Oh, really? Yeah, so not all those pictures are gonna be on the computer, but I think this sort of cards. Also, I'm getting together with my siblings in August. Because I have a lot of the old photos of our parents. That I scanned in from the photo album. So I thought that would be a nice place to put it. Set it up somewhere, somewhere to I may just put
All right, we're back. Let me share my screen. And I'm just going to stay in IE, even though I hate IE. I'm going to stay in that because it seemed to be Chrome that was causing the video issue for some reason. Okay. So the plugin, I'm actually not going to give you the plugin because it's too big and I don't feel like showing you guys right now how to set the PHP INI file. You probably won't have to do that on your server, and if you do, you can ask your server administrator to do it for you. It's a PHP setting that you have to change, and there's multiple settings sometimes you have to change. There is another plugin that you can use to do this. I do really like Gravity Forms. It's a premium. Let me just bring it up. What? Another GOP? Oh my goodness. Trump is crazy. Gravity Forms is a form builder that you can use for all kinds of really cool stuff. So you can use it for a contact form. You can use it to do, like we use it when, for some of my clients, they have conferences and they need people to submit their abstracts. We actually use it as an abstract submission tool. We've used it for voting for stuff. We've used it for polls, surveys, all kinds of really complex stuff. Because it's got a lot of really great features. It can make a very feature-rich form. And it's a pretty easy to use. It can make multi-page forms. You can do a lot of logic with form entries and everything. Like you can make it so that like it'll show certain form fields only if they answered another form field a certain way. So there's a lot of really nice features there. Some other add-ons it has. You can, so as a business or developer, so the $39 one, you're not going to get these add-ons. But for the business and developer one, we have a developer license because we install Gravity Forms on a lot of our client sites. But it has some add-ons, like you can, when somebody submits a form, they can check a box and have their email address automatically sent to your MailChimp mailing list or your Aweber or any of these other mailing list providers. If you have the developer one, it has some more advanced add-ons. Like it can collect payments from the user, so you can actually sell simple products through Gravity Forms. So if you don't want to necessarily have a WooCommerce, you don't really have anything that's that complex. Maybe you just want to have it so that somebody is going to order something that's really configurable, and you need to have them fill out this whole form. And then based on what they fill out in the form, you want them to pay an amount for the product. So you can do that. You can also do polls and quiz signatures in each feature. You can get them to sign like on a touch screen. So some pretty cool stuff. Some other features, you can accept Stripe. So Stripe is a payment gateway similar to PayPal. And you can have it use registered users. The Zapier integration is really nice because Zapier is sort of a way to connect APIs of very different tools. So, for example, you can have it so that when you submit a Gravity form, it will do anything that Zapier can connect to. So Zapier is another service. It has some free connections and some not free connections. So basically what you would do is you can have it so that when you, we call them zaps. So if I go and look for Gravity Forms, and I can add, so I can have it so that Gravity Forms will save a submission to a Google spreadsheet, or it will add an event to a Google Calendar. We've got a whole bunch that are in there. It can create a Salesforce lead, which is very useful. So you can see lots and lots of stuff. It can add a contact to Insightly. It can add a lead to Base CRM. We already knew about that one. You don't actually need Zapier to do that. You can actually connect directly to MailChimp from Gravity Form, but it can add new files to a Google Drive. It can add files to a Dropbox. So you can see there's tons and tons. Like you can add a new MySQL row with your data from Gravity Form. So lots of stuff you can do between the two. It can add a QuickBooks customer. So very, very feature rich. And these are just some zaps that they recommend. You can create your own. So I could, if I wanted to, I can make a zap with Gravity Form, and it'll show you. I think I already have an account. Oh. Oh. It's like one of the passwords I use for everything. So the trigger that you can use, you can only trigger on when a form is submitted. And then, okay, I did that. So after you submit the form, I'm not going to do this whole thing. So after you do that, after you do the action, then you can say, what's it going to do? Like, what are you going to integrate it with? So you can choose GitHub, Zendesk, any of these apps. Lots of other apps in there. So you can connect it to multiple apps. So let's say that I want to connect it to a Google Sheet. You can have it make a row or look up a row. So you've got a lot of features here. But basically what Zapier does, it's an API between APIs. So it's a way to take one API from one system and another API from another system and kind of hook them together with their single Zapier API. So that's a really nice feature of Gravity Forms. You got other ones in here. So I do think it's worth it. But if you don't need it and you just want to have a contact form, there is actually a plugin for that that's free. So if you go back into the WordPress dashboard and you go to plugins, add new, and I believe it's under popular, there is a contact form 7 under popular. If you can't find it, just search for contact form. This is another plugin that you can use to create a contact form. So once you find it, click on Install Now. Excuse me. And then activate it. And that will add a contact section to your dashboard. So if you go to Contact Forms, it creates one automatically. So it creates just a simple contact form. You can click on that to edit it and see what's in there. That's the default contact form. That's pretty straightforward. So you could, if you wanted to, you could just use their default contact form, which is going to ask for name, email, subject, message, and then it's going to have a submit button. That's it. If you wanted to, you could add additional fields to this. So you could add things like URL, and you can say it's required or not required. You can insert the tag. The reason that I prefer Gravity Forms to this is because it's got a visual editor. So this requires you to have a little bit of code savvy. It's a little harder if you're not comfortable with HTML. You're not comfortable, like these are short codes. So if you're not comfortable with that, it could be an issue. So if this isn't your cup of tea, you might want to think about using the Gravity Form instead. Gravity Forms instead. But totally up to you. So if this, I think the default, honestly, for most people, that default form, that default contact form is probably completely sufficient. When you take a look at mail, the mail tab, this is where you can specify who it gets sent to, who it's coming from, what the subject is. You could say like contact form. something like that. I'm sorry. Somewhere it doesn't buzz. And then it's going to have the tags in there. If you go to messages, this is the messages that are output to the user. And additional settings, you can add some code snippets in there. We're not going to do that, but you have the option. So in order to insert this into a page or post or anywhere on your site, you would just copy that short code and then you would paste that in. It's kind of like the gallery short code. When we added the gallery, you saw that there was a short code in there. You would just add that anywhere on the site that you wanted to insert your contact form. So you could put this in a widget. You could put it in a page, a post, whatever you want. One of the things that I like about Gravity Forms versus this is just going to send an email. So if you have an issue with your mail server or something like that, the email never gets sent, you're never going to receive it. So one of the nice things about Gravity Forms is that in addition to sending an email, it'll actually store it in your database. So if there are email issues, you can actually go in and look in your WordPress dashboard to see the messages that were sent or were supposed to be sent, even if they weren't sent. And with Contact Form 7, it doesn't do that. So just something to be aware of. So go ahead and copy the short code. And if you made any changes, you can just hit save. So the nice thing about this again is that if you make changes to your form, it will, that short code, you don't have to change the short code. It'll automatically update the form that's using that short code. And then if you go into your pages, if you already, I think you guys added a contact page before. I did not because I had to reset my site. So I'm going to add a contact form or a contact page. So if you don't have a contact page, just go to Add New. And you can add a new contact page. And then you can paste the short code on the page, either in visual or text, either one, it'll work. And then if you already had the page, you can just update it. If you are publishing it for the first time, hit publish. And then view it. And you should see there's your contact form. I will tell you the mail service is not set up on these computers. So if you submitted this form, it won't work. So if you put in your name, email, you hit send, it won't send an email. So it's going to give you an error because the mail server is not set up on these computers to send the emails. That's why. But if you're putting this on your web host, it should work as long as mail has been configured correctly. And you might have noticed it was giving me an error message on my edit page saying validate your contact form now. Go to validate the configuration. So the form is actually valid. The problem is that the mail server isn't working on this computer, so it won't be able to send the mail. But that's okay. That's how you can add a contact form. So contact form 7 is one option, Gravity Forms is another option. Again, I prefer the Gravity Forms, even though you're paying for it, paying $99 or $199. Depends on how often you're going to use it and how important having that visual contact form versus the tag-based one is for you. There are other ones out there. So if you do go to Add New and you do a search for contact form, there are other contact form plugins out there. Some of them are very highly rated, some of them not so much. So this one's 2.5 stars. You can see there, a lot of them are not very highly rated. This one's reasonably highly rated. Contact form, clean and simple. Contact form maker. So when you're doing this and you're looking, like this one's reasonably highly rated. Contact form BD, that's another nice one. So in these cases, you want to look at the features. Don't just hit install now, but look at the features and see. Like that one might be a good one because that one will actually save your form submissions to the database, which is really useful. Oh, and this one doesn't actually create the contact form. It actually takes your form submissions from other plugins and saves them to the database. So you can install this in addition to Contact Form 7 if you wanted to save the form submissions to the database as well. So that might be an alternative if you just want to use a bunch of free plugins. So there's some other ones in there. There's another one called CForm. CForms 2 contact form. This is another one. This one has been recently updated. It's got a lot of installations. If you look at, I believe this one has a visual editor. I'm just going to install it and see. Just to check it out. So if I go to CForms, so okay, so it's more of a visual editor than the Contact Form 7. So this might be a better one if you are doing things and you're not really a programmer and you don't want to see that HTML code. This might be another option that you can add. It's a little cluttered and there's a lot of stuff there, but it's another option. All right. Do you guys have any questions about plugins, installation, or anything like that? So the big thing to remember with plugins is that they do extend the functionality of WordPress. So themes change the appearance of your WordPress site, and plugins change the functionality. So they add features to the WordPress site where you can do things like forms and e-commerce. You can add galleries. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with plugins. All right, so our last topic is users. So we've gotten through the content, the appearance, and the functionality. So now we're going to talk a little bit about users. So WordPress users, if I go under all users, all users, right now the only user that's in there is you, unless you would have been playing around and adding another user. And you can see that I have a role of administrator. So in a WordPress single site installation, the initial user that you create, that's the administrator of the site. You can add additional users. So you can click on either go to users, add new, or you can click on add new in the user screen, or you can go to new user. Username is required. It's a good practice not to use the email address there. Some websites, they require us to use the email address, but because that way you don't have to remember one more thing, like you don't have to remember a username. So I'm going to put in Chrissy Ray for that. And you do need an email address. You don't have to enter the first name or last name or anything. It'll automatically create a relatively strong password. And it should automatically send the new user an email about their account. The problem is email is not set up on these computers, so it won't send the email. So I would suggest unchecking that and maybe setting this to a slightly easier to remember password. So I'm going to set mine, hide that, and I'm going to set mine to an easy one that's going to be very weak. And I will confirm use of a weak password. And then I want you to take a look at the rules. So the rules that you're going to have are often going to depend on what plugins you have installed. So by default, you're going to have administrator, editor, author, contributor, and subscriber. Those are the ones that come with WordPress, and they each have different levels of permissions. So administrator can do everything. If you're on a WordPress multi-site installation, which I don't think we're going to have time to get into today, but it's something to look up for future reference. We talked about it in the first class, I think. A WordPress multi-site lets you have a single WordPress installation with multiple sites using the same code. So if you have a WordPress multi-site, you're actually going to have a network administrator, which is sort of like the super admin of the entire network, and then each individual site can have its own administrators that are only admins of those particular sites within that network of sites. But this administrator is sort of the all-powerful administrator of the site. An editor has a lot of the same permissions as the administrator, but it can't change certain things, like it can't install plugins, it can't install themes. So what I'd actually like you to do is set your user to be an editor. And I want you to remember your username and your password. And then I want you to add the new user. Confirm that that new user is an editor. And then you're going to log out. So if you go to where it says howdy, comma, and then your name in the top right corner, click on log out. And then I want you to log back in as that other user. You can see what the dashboard looks like. So notice when you log back in that you don't have access to a lot of stuff. So I can't install plugins, I can't install themes, I can't do the WooCommerce stuff because I had WooCommerce installed. I can access the contact forms. So I still have the ability to edit and view the contact forms. I can still add posts, I can still add pages. I can still add media and I can monitor the comments, but notice under dashboard, I don't have the ability to update or see the updates or anything like that. So this is really for the user who is really just in charge of doing content, and that's it. You can't also notice that you don't have the ability to add users as an editor. Only administrators have the ability to add users. All right, so let's log out and log back in as your admin user. And go back to your user list. Go to users, all users. And let's change that second user, the one that's an editor, let's change it to a author. And then update the user. And for the rest of these, you don't have to switch. If you want to, you can switch in and out of the users, but if you'd rather, you can just look at my screen and see the progression. You don't have to do it all. But I'll show you the difference between the different users. So I'm going to log back out, and I'm going to log in as what is now an author. So you can see now I can't add pages. I only have posts. So authors do not have the ability to do anything with pages. Editors did. I can, as an author, I can only view other people's posts. I can't edit them. So authors are allowed to add posts. And I can publish them. And then after I publish my post, when I look at all posts, you can see that my post will be editable. If I go to all, I can still view other people's posts, but I can't edit them. I can only edit my own posts. Excuse me. For contact form, I can still edit. Well, I can click on edit. I'm not allowed to edit it, but I can get the short code from there. So remember before, as an editor, I could edit the contact form. As an author, I cannot. So that's pretty much it. There's not as much stuff that you can do with an author profile. So I'm going to log out and log back in as my admin user. And I'm going to now give this user the permission of a contributor. Nope, not for a post. It'll automatically be published. A contributor, though, which is what I'm going to show you now, it does have to be approved. So as a contributor user, which is what my user is going to be now after I update this. So we'll log out again. And I'll log back in as what is now a contributor. Notice I still have posts, comments, contact. Again, I can view the contact form. I can't edit it. For posts, I can see, notice this is my post. I can view it, but I can't edit it. I'm a contributor at this point. So what I can do is I can add a new post. I'm sad because I can't really do a whole lot. But I can submit it for review. All right. So if I look now in all posts as a contributor, it's going to be pending. It can't be published. A contributor cannot publish their own. If you want to have a user that can publish their own posts, they would need to be author. If you have them whether you want them to be a contributor, where all they can do is they can add their own posts, but they can't publish them. So they basically create them, and then an editor or above can go in and approve it and publish it. Notice that they can edit this post. So this post is still pending, so I can go back in and edit it if I want to, and then submit it for review again. But in order for it to go live, the editor or administrator would have to approve it, and they would have to publish it. No, they can. No, they can only. Yeah, they can't insert media. Now there's one level below this, which is subscriber. So there's subscriber, contributor, author, editor, and administrator. Subscriber, all of the subscribers going to have access to, and I'll show you just so you can see. They'll be able to see their profile and change their profile. So if I log back in as my admin user and go back to my users. Oh, and by the way, if I go to my posts, I'll see there is the contributor post. It didn't go, I'm going to take it over. I can publish it if I wanted to. And when I publish it, if I was to go back in, it would no longer be editable by that author, or sorry, by that contributor user. So if I go back to users and I edit this user and make them a subscriber, update, log out. When I log back in as a subscriber, it actually takes me to my account. This is a feature of WooCommerce. This is actually a feature that WooCommerce has. So let me deactivate WooCommerce. So turn this off so you can see what would happen by default. They made it so that when you have WooCommerce enabled, they don't want subscribers. Oh, I just logged back into the same one. They don't want subscribers to be able to get to the WordPress dashboard. So they won't let you in there at all, which is probably for the best. So let me deactivate WooCommerce real quick. Okay, so now if I log out, if I log back in as my author, it lets me go to my profile, and that's it. So what that'll let me do is I can change my password. And if I'm logged in anywhere else, it'll let me log out. That's it. That's all I can do as an author. Now, you can tweak the roles. Yes, leave this page. It is possible to tweak the roles, but it requires a plugin to do that. So there is actually a plugin that you can add. No, if you're self-hosted, you can, as many as your server will accommodate. Yeah. So there is a plugin called Members. Let me find it. It's a Members plugin, which is pretty actively maintained. It's pretty well installed. We use this on a lot of our sites. So I'll activate Members. And now if I go to users, you can see I have my roles. and these are all the roles I have, I can actually edit the roles. So if I wanted to make like a baby admin or something like that, I could clone administrator. And I can call this almost admin. And then I can just go through and say, well, I want them to be able to, I don't want them to be able to activate plugins, but I want them to be able to do stuff in the shop. And I don't want them to be able to create roles. So you can go through and kind of pick and choose what they're able to do. So I can go through it. Yeah, I should let them delete pages. I don't want them to delete plugins. What I'd probably do is really just go through and make it so they can't really do anything with plugins. But I want them to be able to manage the appearance of the site. So by default, only admins can manage the appearance of the site, but my almost admin is also going to be able to, but they can't do anything with plugins. So it's a sort of like between an editor and an admin. So an editor can't do anything with themes, it can't do anything with plugins. But my almost admin can do stuff with themes, but not with plugins. And then I also want to make it so that my almost admin, I probably don't want them to be able to do anything with roles. And I don't want them to be able to remove users. So I'll let them create users. I won't let them delete the users. I'll just let them create users and list users, and that's it. And everything else I'll leave it so they can do pretty much everything else. So I'm going to add this role. And now I'm going to go back into my users. And that Chrissy Ray user, I'm going to make that user an almost admin. The other thing that this does, this is really cool, is you can assign multiple roles to a single user. So you could give a user, if you had maybe like, let's say that you had an editor role and then you also had a theme manager role or appearance manager role, where the appearance manager role, all they can do is they can manage the theme. They can add themes, they can change the theme and stuff like that. So I could create a role where I was just able to manage the theme. And then I also wanted that user to be an editor, so I can actually have them do multiple roles at one time. No, you need the plugin. The plugin does this. Yeah, the plugin is allowing me to assign multiple roles to a single user. So, but I've created this almost admin role. So I'm going to update the user. And then I will, that's Claire, that's my daughter.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. You'd be able to see if somebody came in. So you can see now this user they don't have plugins or anything, but they can do whatever they need to with the themes. So they could, if they wanted to, they could add a new theme. And they can do whatever they need to with pages and posts and contact forms and all the other stuff. They just don't have the ability to do anything with the plugins. They can't install plugins. They also, if they go to users, they can view the users. And I can add a new user, but notice that I can't delete any other users. So I can add a new user. I'm going to add a new user. So after I've added that user, I can't delete the user. So that was the capabilities, and they're called capabilities for the roles, is how you determine what they can do. So after I've added that user, I can't then delete it because I don't. This admin, this almost admin, doesn't have that capability to do that. If I was to add a new user, the roles that I can give it, notice that I could give it an administrator role. So it's not foolproof. So you could, as an almost admin, I can create an admin and I can set it to have whatever role I want. So you might want to make it so that this almost admin can't add users, unless you trust them to add users and then give them whatever role they want. One thing to be aware of is that an administrator can delete any other administrator. There's no, like, you can't delete, you can delete the original administrator of the site as an admin. So only give administrator users to people that you really do trust. And again, you might want to make it so that there are sub roles that that don't have the ability to tweak users and stuff like that. If you trust the people to manage the plugins and the posts and the pages and the themes and everything, but maybe not to manage the users, make a role that doesn't have anything to do with users, and then assign them that role. And again, the plugin for that is, let me log back out and just my Chrissy user. It's called Members, and it's by Justin Tadlock, I think. Let me check. Yeah, Justin Tadlock, and it's called Members. Really easy plugin. Does a lot of really cool stuff, and it's free, so it's pretty nice. All right, so some other plugins that you, for user management, let's go to add new. And there's a few other plugins that you could use for user management. So some other things that you might want to do, like this admin columns is useful. It lets you add additional columns to the user table. It lets you actually add columns to any post type that you already have. But one of the nice things is that it also lets you add columns to the users table. So if you look at your users table, your users list, username, name, email, and roles and posts. You can add additional, whatever additional data you're storing about the user, you can add that to there. Another really nice plugin that you can use for managing users is user meta. So user meta is additional information that you're storing about a user. So I would say something like user meta manager or something like that. What that lets you do, if you go to users, like if I look at my profile right now, the default stuff, this is the default stuff. So it's going to have things like username, first name, last name, nickname, what I want to display my name as, email, website, bio, profile picture, and that's pretty much it. But you can use a plugin to add additional what they call user meta. So we go under users. And let's see. No, I think you have to actually search for it. Yeah. So user meta. Now you could do user custom fields. Let's see. I don't see a really good one. This one might work. Oh wait, it was updated 2 years ago. No, I don't think so. Custom meta, custom 4 years ago. Yeah, we're not going to do that one. I don't see a good one. Yeah, I'm not seeing any that are really good. That one might work. It was updated a month ago. Custom fields for post types, taxonomies, users. So that one might work. I'll go ahead and install that one. I'll try activating it. It's always good to try out new plugins.
So on all these plugins, I even see it really does putting in plugins.
You know, you don't, unless you actually go through and look at the code, you can't guarantee that it's secure. So there's always a risk with it. So that's why you want to make sure that it's installed on a lot of sites and that it's got good reviews and everything. And even then, there could be a security issue with it. The Yoast SEO plugin, which is used by millions of websites, had security hole that one of the security, I think it was security found. And what they usually do is if somebody finds a security flaw with a plugin, they notify, if they're a nice person, they notify the plugin author and give them a chance to fix it. And then they announce, after they fixed it, they announce the security hole and say, either deactivate the plugin or update to the latest version. So, let's see, the members, let me see what it's under. I don't know what they put it under. Users. Where'd they put it? Carbon fields. I'm not seeing the fields. Hold on. I got to go back and look at the. Sometimes you have to RTFM. You have to see, what do you do? Usage and documentation. I have to actually read the manual. Carbon fields. Okay. So if we go into user meta, I don't know, this looks like it might be a pain to use. Oh, you gotta like write code for it. We're not gonna do that. This requires you to write code. It's a plugin that like is a framework. So we're not gonna do that. I'm trying to give you guys non-code ways to do stuff. So let me try another one. User meta. I know I've seen one before that wasn't that lowly rated. Oh, this one looks, oh, 2 years ago. I don't see any really good choices. Let's try that one, user meta manager. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place there. So we'll try this one. So let's see, users, user meta manager. Let me add custom meta. I'm going to call it Facebook. Facebook page. Put a URL. We'll say Facebook. URL. Oops. Okay, so I'll submit that. So now if I go to my profile, Facebook URL was that there. I could add my profile, my Facebook URL. So this is just you can add additional meta. So this is just some additional stuff that you can add for your users to manage their profiles. Now another plugin that you might want to think about for user management, it's really weird that it's not built in, but there's not an easy way to contact all of your users. So you have all these users and you're collecting all their email addresses, but there's no like email users. So like if your site's going to be down for a few days or something like that and you want to notify them all, you actually would have to install a plugin to do that. So, and there are plugins out there for you to do that, because it is a pretty common problem. And you can see that some of them are pretty highly rated. So you can see this one, email users, WP email users, that one doesn't have any installed. There's an exporter that might even be a good option if you just want to email them from another system or something like that. MailPoet is MailPoet's actually pretty cool. Let me show you that one. That is not specifically for emailing all your users, but it's more of like a you can use it for that. It's actually very highly rated. But it's sort of like a replacement for MailChimp. It would actually be, instead of using MailChimp, you would do your newsletters from within WordPress. So that's really useful if you want to have all of your users be subscribers to your mailing list or be able to opt in and out on your website. So, but you can use that to notify your WordPress users. You should be able to.
To notify them what the post?
Just about anything to notify them. Yeah, to like say there's going to be a system outage or something like that, or we're going to be doing maintenance. They do have it's a freemium one, so you get a free version, and so you can create a newsletter, see who your subscribers are. By default, it's going to put all of your users as subscribers. But I could create a newsletter. I'm going to send this to all my WordPress users. You can edit it. It's got a nice visual editor. Send a preview. It won't work because my email's not working. That's what the error is for. So, but you could go in and you could say, come on. Then you can send it, add more content. They've got a lot of options. Have any of you used MailChimp before? It's pretty easy, but this is, I mean, this is just as easy. There are premium features, so if you want to, like you can do, some of the stuff is what's built into MailChimp. So if you're using MailChimp, you can get statistics. So like when I send an email by MailChimp, I get lots of really good data. Like I can see the click rate, I can see how many people opened it, how many people actually clicked on the links and everything in there. The other thing is it will, I have a premium account with MailChimp, so it'll read all of the email addresses, and it'll determine when is the best time to send the email based on the content of my email and my subscribers and their activity across all other mailing lists. So like when is the better time to get people to open the email and then click on a link in it. So it does all kinds of compiling data from millions of users that are subscribed. You can see that you've got 2,000 subscriber limit on the free version, but you can get premium to get rid of that. So lots of really nice features, and it's not very expensive. So $99 a year is not bad. $249 a year if you've got several sites, but I still prefer MailChimp. MailPoet's okay, but I like MailChimp. That's because of what I'm used to. MailChimp, for any of you that are interested, is they do have a free version. And the free version is actually very robust. It has a lot of really good features, and it integrates pretty well. Like you can add like on the Coder Kids website, we have our mailing list sign up form is actually straight from there. I just copied it and pasted it from MailChimp. So there's not like an integration between the two. I just copied the form and pasted it into the other page. No, just MailChimp. No, it's not even a plugin. You just go to MailChimp.com. And you can actually get, you can add a widget containing the shortcode, the code from MailChimp to submit the form. But so for the longest time I had the starting up, and it's free. You can have 2,000 subscribers and you can send 12,000 emails a month. So what I usually do is I send like 4 emails a month. I send like 1 email a week, give or take. Sometimes it's 1 every other week. Because like I haven't sent out an email in the last 2 weeks because I've been so busy. But you know, I've got like 400 subscribers on one of my lists, so I could send them, I can have up to 2,000. I could send all 4 of those subscribers many emails every month and not hit that 12,000. But I'm not going to send them that many emails. I'll send them like once a week or something like that. I am on the next level up, I think, which is the growing business. And so for that, we're paying, I think, $20 a month. Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's really not. Yeah. So, but with that, you get a lot of really good features. Like you can do, like I said, it'll determine when is the best time to send it. You can do integrations. You can do targeting and all kinds of additional tracking and really nice features. So like the time warp, the time optimization is really nice. And so, and they do it like they actually look at every user that receives email from MailChimp, and it's I guess over 4 million, and they look and see when are these people more likely to click on an email, and when are they more likely to open it and click on a link in it. So they will send the emails based on that time. So it's pretty nice. It's a nice feature. I thought I'd try it out. So I've been using MailChimp for probably 6 years for free. I finally decided to start paying them for their service because I really like it. And it's got a primate on it, so I kind of had to. Yeah. I mean, there are other services. There's Constant Contact. There's Aweber, Virtual Response. There are tons of them. But honestly, and it's not just because of the chimp, I have found MailChimp to be one of the easier to use and the more user-friendly on the dashboard side. So it's just, that's my personal preference, and not just because of the primate. That does help, but that's not the sole purpose there. All right. So there's, I mean, there's more, obviously there's a lot more that you can do with WordPress. Does anybody have any questions about the users or the plugins? Or do you guys want any recommendations for specific types of plugins that you might be using on your sites?
Well, I've heard that if you have too many plugins, it can slow down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, there are plugins that we shouldn't even consider. I don't mean brand names, the types of plugins that are not needed.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. Like the caching, you want to be careful with. Like if you have a low use site, like if your site's only getting like maybe a few hundred hits a day, yeah, don't use a caching plugin because it's actually going to use more resources than it will save. If you're only getting the page pulled up every hour or so by a few users, then it's not worth getting caching for your site. So that's what my server guy says. So don't use caching if you don't need it. And the other thing with caching is that, like, if you're updating your site frequently, it kills, like, if you're updating it a lot and you're adding a lot of content very frequently, sometimes the caching plugins add more overhead than you're using. So, yeah. As far as other plugins, you do want to be careful when you're installing plugins. Read the reviews, look at the ratings, look at how many sites it's installed, when it's been last updated. Try not to use any plugins that were last updated over 6 months ago, if you can help it, because the WordPress versions come out at least every 6 months. So if the last release was over 6 months ago, they probably aren't actively maintaining it. And that is another thing to look at is when you're installing the plugin, is it actively maintained? And some of them will even say it on the front page. So there are some plugins out there that people, let me see. There probably aren't any under recommended or popular that haven't been updated recently. I don't know, the WordPress importer hasn't been updated in 10 months. Doesn't have very good ratings either, so I might not install it. But it's really the only one out there for it. So, as you can see, all of the popular ones, they're updated. I mean, they're very actively maintained. You can see, like, well, this one's not, but you can see this was updated 2 weeks ago. This one was updated a month ago, 2 weeks ago, 7 days ago. So they're updating them pretty frequently. 11 hours ago. So I mean, this one was updated, and this one doesn't even have very good ratings. I don't like this particular plugin personally, but some people do. But you can see that there are 6 days ago. All kinds of really nice plugins in there.
Well, we want to plug in for disabling comments, but you can do that within WordPress itself.
It allows you to globally disable them in multi-sites also.
Oh, okay. I just see them.
Yeah. So, and you can also do it by post type. So, like, if you might want to allow people to do comments on certain post types but not others. And if you didn't disable them by default, they're enabled. So, like, you would have to go through and disable them manually. Like so, if you had a bunch of posts that had comments enabled, you'd have to go through and disable them on all of them. So, one of my developers did a plugin that we use on some of our sites to enable or disable comments globally. Basically, it does this. The reason that we write plugins sometimes is we have our Smart Simeon plugins that we use on client side. Is because like advanced custom fields is really nice, but if they make an update and it breaks some of the stuff that we use, our clients get really mad. So we write our own plugins that do a lot of the stuff like advanced custom fields. And there's another plugin called Pods that we used to use that was really nice. But they did a bunch of updates and it kept breaking stuff. So we decided to stop using other people's plugins, write our own that do the same things. And then they're not going to break whenever there's a WordPress update or whenever we do an update. They're going to continue to work because we're testing them on our client site. And we had them available for the public for a while, but we decided to stop because we didn't want to support other people. We're just going to support our clients. We're not going to, like, these people that are paying like $100 and then they have like 30 hours worth of questions for us. We're not making any money. We're losing money on that. So we stopped supporting it for public usage. But anybody that already has a license, we're continuing to support them, but mostly it's just for our clients. And we might open it back up to other people down the road. Eventually, maybe. We'll see. But if you do want to do custom post types, Pods is an okay plugin for that. Custom post types lets you do things more than posts and pages. So there are several plugins out there for that. So custom fields and post type generator, there's quite a few of them out there. So, and again, the reason that we stopped using them is because they would break every once in a while, and we got tired of it. Our client would say, we just updated our WordPress site and everything broke. It's like, well, and one of the things is like our warranty says we can't warranty stuff that was made through third-party plugins. So since we were using these third-party plugins, we couldn't warranty our work because the third-party plugin could get updated at any time, and then the warranty's out the window. So we want to be able to do a warranty on our work. And so we write our own plugins so that if there's something broken, we can fix it. You don't have to wait for some other developer who may or may not want to fix it to fix it. So we will probably eventually have classes on doing theme development and plugin development. So I'll let you guys know if we do that. I will warn you though that does require, like the plugin development requires you to know PHP. So it is definitely programming. Theme development, some PHP, but usually if you know HTML, if you're comfortable with HTML and CSS, we can get you through the PHP part. You don't really need to know a lot of PHP to do a basic theme. It's more the HTML and CSS parts, and then there's some limited PHP that you would have to do. Like if you want to add some extra functionality to a theme, you might need to know some PHP, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Anybody have any questions? Okay. The recording, I'm gonna stop it now. Actually I'll leave this in the recording. Randy, one of my QA guy, he did an update of the handout of the book. It's like 60 pages. He did an update of all the screenshots and he made some notes that I have to update some text in a couple places. So as soon as I'm done that, I'll PDF it and I'll send it to you guys. So you'll have the reference. I've done this, and it actually does have the instructions for Gravity Forms. So if you do install Gravity Forms, you have to buy it. But if you install it, it's got the instructions for it. But it's got everything for like activating, deactivating, all the user stuff. So you'll have the videos, the free videos, plus you'll have the PDF that you can use as a reference. And then, like I said, I'll let you know if we do any additional classes. If there are specific topics that you think might be good for a workshop, like like a 1 hour or 2 hour thing, let me know, because sometimes what I'll do is I'll just do like a video of it, and I can, like, if I have time, I'll do, like, if you say I want to know how to do X, Y, and Z in WordPress, if I have time, I'll do a video, and then I'll just put it out there. Like, we don't even have to do like a in-person class necessarily. If you're okay with watching videos, we can do that. So if you think of a topic, let me know. There are some videos on the YouTube channel, on the same YouTube channel that the WordPress videos will be on. It's Christy Ray, I think. I think that's me. Yeah, so there's like a 2-hour workshop that I did. But one of the things that you might want to check in, this is a little bit old, it's a little bit out of date, is building an app with WordPress. So that's one thing that we actually do quite a bit at Pongos is we build apps for clients with WordPress. So we use this thing called App Presser. It's a premium plugin. It's a few $100s, but you can use it to create to lay the foundation to create an app. It's a HTML hybrid app. HTML5 hybrid app that you can create with WordPress. So WordPress is managing the content, and then you're using this app to add, these plugins to add app features like push notifications, sharing, native sharing, ability to use your camera with the app and everything like that. So just something to think about if you're ever interested in doing that. I'll probably update that. You can see it was done a year ago. I'll probably update it eventually. This video is using basically how to use Smart Simeon that I mentioned before. So you can watch it, but the plugins aren't publicly available. So sorry, you can't use the plugins. But I'll keep adding. So if you think of a topic, let me know. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope you learned a